Hey, what's up and welcome back to Fiverr Talks. It's Thursday, which means today I'm tackling viewer questions from the comments section. Today we're going to be talking about uploading gig videos, what to do when you get overwhelmed, and how to climb your way out of a slump on Fiverr, so don't miss it. That's right, today we're tackling your questions, and if you're new to the channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Joel Young, user DJ Young on Fiverr. Been there for about 8 years, since 2013. Selling, I'm one of Fiverr's all-time top earners and a top-rated seller, and today and every single Thursday, I answer your questions from the comments section. So if you have questions, be sure to leave them down below, and if you like this video and get some useful content out of it, then please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. I've got my trusty iPad here. I have got, a dozen or more questions to answer from you all, so I'm going to jump right into it. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get right into today's questions. The first question comes from Sujan Tive. I think I pronounced that right. That was pretty good. Sujan asks, my buyer ordered a gig, but he didn't provide any information in the requirements section, and he's been offline for a long time. I'm worried this is going to hurt my account. What do I do? This is a very common question and one that I don't really understand. One that I struggle to understand from an entrepreneur's standpoint. You know, every single dollar matters as a business owner. Who is going out there placing orders on Fiverr and just abandoning those orders? It happens all the time. I have rows of incomplete gigs where somebody has paid for a service and never submitted information so I can do that. So there are a couple things you can do here. Two things I want to mention. First off, if they haven't submitted the gig information, then the clock has not started. So if they've placed an order, but you don't see that clock yet because they haven't submitted a response, then you are not liable for the delivery until they send some kind of information over. So that's a really good thing. The second thing you need to know is that if somehow they start the gig and they leave not enough information for you and yet that clock is going, then I would suggest being as persistent as you possibly can. Send them a message the first day, wait. Send them a message the second day, wait. You know, depending on how long your turnaround time is, you may want to message them once or even twice a day to try to get the information that you need every chance that you get. Being persistent means you're a good seller. It means that you want to offer a quality product. You just need more information to do that. Being persistent is important, and using the resolution center is important. If you're halfway through your timeline and you still haven't gotten any response, if it's gone 2, 3, 4 days and you're in a 1-week timeline, then go ahead and send a resolution. Send a timeline extension. Try to get their attention, because sometimes comments on order pages are seen differently than requests for resolution, or in some cases that'll come across as a dispute on Fiverr, which is horrible language. I know they've changed it in some places. They still haven't changed it in others, but it will get a buyer's attention if they're not paying attention. So use that resolution center to your advantage. Make sure that you're asking for the time you need and you're asking sellers to respect you. Hey, you placed this order. I couldn't do anything, so please give me the time back that I lost waiting on your response. Be professional about it, but be prompt with your responses and be persistent. Don't give up. Message them once or twice a day. Make sure that they know that you are looking and hunting for their information, and Fiverr will know that. It will not, even though a gig can go late, if you have a resolution pending, I don't believe, I've checked this many times, watched it closely, it will not count against your late statistics if you have a request open and they eventually accept that request. So use the resolution center, be persistent. Thank you for your question. Our next question is from Miro Shava. I love that, Miro Shava. The next question is, hey Joel, hey Miro. Ever since I've become a level 1 seller, I've stopped getting orders, and my order impressions and clicks are decreasing every single day. However, I have a very good rating and I have very good ratings and reviews. Please give me some advice. What should I do? I would say there's more going on than you're telling. You don't just stop getting orders once you become level 1. I've heard a lot of people and a lot of debates in the comments section lately about, oh, now I'm level 2 and I'm not being promoted because I'm not a new seller anymore. I'm losing all my clicks. That just doesn't happen. There's no math that adds up to that. There's no evidence that that's what's happening. If your reviews and your ratings and your order numbers are good, you will continue to be promoted. You will continue to get orders. What's missing out of this is probably that cancellations have been higher than normal, haven't they? Maybe you've had some bad experiences. Maybe you had a bad review, even though you had the bulk of them are good, but maybe your cancellation rates are affecting that. Maybe the quality of work is affecting that. Maybe it's just a season. Maybe it's just a wave on Fiverr. Sometimes traffic goes down for no apparent reason. You're doing everything right. There's an ebb and a flow to every single online market. Maybe that's a part of it. But I will say, and I will encourage you to stop thinking this has nothing to do with you becoming a level 1 seller. It has nothing to do with you leveling up to another. In fact, it's better that you're not just a new seller. Now you're a level 1. It's way better. So just rest assured, it's not you leveling up that is causing this problem. You want to level up. You want to head towards top rated seller status, and Fiverr is paying attention every time you level up, and I believe it helps your search results. So keep that in mind. Thanks for your question. We've got a question from Twitter next. Did you know you could leave me a question on Twitter at Fiverr Talks? It's fun. I'm over there posting some things, talking, having some conversations. Stop by if you're not already a follower. Jamie on Twitter says, every time I feel overwhelmed with orders, I limit the amount of orders in my queue to 10 or 20 per gig. But then I see a massive drop. What's happening? Well, let me just say, first and foremost, if you didn't know this was a feature, Fiverr actually does have a feature where you can limit the orders in your queue for each gig. So if it sees that you have 5 gigs already in queue and you've said no more than 5, it won't allow buyers to place an order until you deliver one, so that you'll never have more than whatever you specify in your queue. It really helps sellers from getting overwhelmed, and that's what it's for. That's what Jamie's talking about. The problem is, even though I've never used this feature, I suspect it is very much like Fiverr's vacation feature, meaning it's meant for you to be able to turn things off and relax, but the problem is it actually hurts your standing in the search results. The Fiverr bots, the Fiverr algorithms see that you're limiting yourself. You're not delivering orders when you're on vacation, and when you're limiting yourself, you are basically you're having people go to your gig page and not able to convert, and therefore it hurts your standings in the Fiverr search algorithm. I believe that's what's happening. I believe, even though it's a feature Fiverr has put there, that it actually can and does hurt your search results. That's why you're seeing the drop every single time. It's unfortunate, and it's silly that Fiverr is putting things out there that seem like they're going to help us as sellers manage the stress, manage the workload, but they in fact end up hurting our ability to make money on the other side of that. So I would encourage you to be cautious when using this. Try to figure out ways to do something else, like maybe extend your turnaround time, rather than putting yourself in a limited queue, because then you can still take orders and be filling orders, but your turnaround time is just a little bit longer. I might suggest that instead. So hopefully that helps. And thanks for joining me on Twitter. Pavith Salinda says, I'm trying to publish a gig video, and some people are saying that their videos are remaining under review and they won't appear on their gig. Is there any reason for that? Yes, there's absolutely a reason for that. This is not a permanent thing. When you shoot a new gig video and upload it, Fiverr manually watches that. They have a person watch that video and approve that video's content. Now, they've got these guidelines for videos. They have to be a certain length. It's changed all the time. It used to be longer. Then it was down to a minute. Now it says around a minute. And they want to make sure that there's nothing offensive or you're not doing anything inappropriate or lewd or vulgar in your video. So they actually have a person check that. Sometimes I've seen it happen in like 20 minutes, an hour, couple hours. If you're doing it during business hours in Israel, where Fiverr is headquartered, you're going to get a lot faster approval on your video as long as there's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes it can take up to 24 hours. And you're right, until that video is approved, it will not appear on your gig page. That should not dissuade you from uploading a new gig video. Just know and have the expectation that a human is going to have to watch that video and approve and make sure it's appropriate. I think this is a great idea, just because posting video on your site to advertise anything you want could be something that a bot gets wrong, both in the good and bad direction. And it's something we need to police very, very closely, very tightly, to make sure that people are being upright and proper and following the terms of service and all that good stuff. So your video will eventually be approved as long as there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so our next question. Thanks for your question, Pavith. The next question comes from Gafar Speaks. Gafar speaks and says, I'm a level 1 seller on Fiverr, and I just want to ask how to outsource work with other Fiverr freelancers. Hey, Gafar, I wouldn't do that, bro. That's a horrible idea. The whole point of being a seller on Fiverr is to offer your creative services to the world. If your premise for making money is putting up ads and hiring other people on Fiverr to do the work and then marking up their work, you're A, not going to make a whole lot of money, and B, you're going to be at the whim of somebody else's quality of work, their schedule, their responsiveness to you. There's going to be times when you're going to be in a bind. I absolutely would discourage anyone from making this the basis of their business model on Fiverr, outsourcing work to other people. Do the work yourself. If you don't have the skill, then don't offer the skill on Fiverr. That's the whole point. This is where you sell your creative services, not a place for you to sell other people's. Now, is there anything wrong with it? No, but I just don't think it's going to lead to success. So rethink your model, rethink your strategy. That's my opinion. But thanks for your question. Team AR asks this question. How are you taking Skype or Zoom calls with clients? I see in your gig description you offer a 15-minute call. Is this allowed? I know why you're confused, because Fiverr has been very confusing with their communication about this over the years. So, if you've heard anything about the Fiverr business section, this is a curated list of special gigs, special sellers for business clients on Fiverr, kind of a higher clientele. Businesses pay after the first year, where it's a trial, pay for the right to have access to this list of sellers that should offer them a premium service. And within the Fiverr business platform, they are offering and encouraging Zoom calls. There's a little button right next to the text box that says schedule a Zoom call with your seller, so that business clients can actually talk to sellers on Zoom and work out the details of their project. I have been told by Fiverr for years, even when Skype was a thing and Zoom wasn't a thing, that's why mine still says Skype. I probably need to update that. But I've been told for years that as a top-rated seller, even though you're told not to communicate outside the platform, as a top-rated seller, I was allowed to offer a video consultation to my clients once they had an active gig. And so there's a lot of mixed messaging. There's a lot of gray area here where Fiverr has not been good about communicating or setting rules. I see why they don't want you to communicate outside the platform, because then you can cut Fiverr out, take payment some other way. That's what they're trying to avoid. But once you have a gig in place, they have always allowed me to take those Zoom calls, schedule those, and for larger projects as necessary, larger companies, larger businesses, they want that peace of mind that I can talk to you. You're a real person. We can talk about the project and get together if there are any issues we need to work out. So yes, I've been able to do it and have no issues, but yes, it is confusing. So if you're wondering if you can do that, reach out to customer support and ask them. Say, I see other sellers doing it. Maybe that's something I could do. And I think you'll get an answer that will be less confusing than their other communication. Thanks for your question, Team AR. MHD Abdeen. MHD. We'll call you Muhammad Abdeen. That's probably an abbreviation for your name. Your question is, sometimes I need to share my portfolio with clients, especially for bigger orders. Big problem. I can't share my portfolio in the gig description because ArtStation links are not included in the approved link list. Is it safe to share it in the inbox with buyers? I would say maybe you should put your portfolio in something like a Google Drive folder, a Dropbox folder. I use Google Drive and Dropbox to deliver projects and have for years. I've never had any problems with it. For me, I do video. So when people ask for more portfolio links, I send them YouTube links to videos, things like that. So I'm not sure what service you're offering. Sounds graphic in nature. Sounds, you're an artist. So I'm not sure where you could post those things, but maybe turn it into a YouTube video. Make your portfolio into like a 2-minute YouTube roll where it just rolls for them, and send them a YouTube link. Put it in a Google Drive folder. Share that in the inbox. That's certainly allowed. I've done that for years without any issue, but it is a nice way to get more of your work into a potential customer's hands so they can make that decision. Thank you for your question. Farhad asks, I'm a film and game composer, and I can say with confidence that my skills are way higher than my coworkers on Fiverr. Humble, are we? But the problem is I'm working for much cheaper than anybody else. And the reason is that I fear losing customers. What do you think I should do? Well, Farhad, I think first of all, you should ask somebody else to help you make that judgment call. Is your work really that much better than everybody else's, or is that a biased opinion? Maybe it is. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't know you or your gigs. But make sure that it is before you make any changes. And before you say your prices are way lower than everybody else's, do thorough research to make sure they are. And before you go raising your prices, make sure you have enough demand to qualify you to raise those prices. If you're barely getting any orders where you are, people might think your prices are appropriately set. So don't just assume they're too low because they're lower than other people's. If other people are offering more, higher quality, different types of services, that might be why their prices are higher. In general, I encourage all of you to raise your prices and work for a little more. We talked about just on Monday about in a gig review how somebody was building a 2-page website for $15 and totally underselling himself. There's no way you can start a business at that price. But in general, most freelancers underprice their services because of fear. And the only thing that I can tell you that gets rid of that is time and experience. The longer you do this, the better feel you have for who you are, what you do, who your customers are, and what your worth is in the marketplace. The more confidence you'll have in changing those prices and raising them. So most of you watching probably need to raise your prices 25%. Some of you might need to raise your prices 50%. Only you can make that determination, but do it with solid data on your side. Do some research, find out, where you truly set for quality, and then look at the demand where you're currently at, because certainly when you raise your prices, demand will for at least a time go down. So make sure you've done all your homework before you raise your prices, and don't assume anything in that process. Thanks for your question. The next question. Boy, we are on fire. Can I just stop and say we are just like hitting it? Boom, 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 boom. I love this. If you have a question, leave it down below. I would love to answer your question next Thursday. This question is from Radul. Radul says, if a buyer comes to me from a gig that I have, let me start over. If a buyer comes to me and asks for a gig and I give him a custom order for another gig that I want to increase my numbers on, is that harmful to my account? Now, he's talking about custom offers. So let's say you have 3 different gigs, but they're in the same niche. They're in the same niche. For me personally, I do voiceovers. I've got a gig for phone messages and a gig for regular voiceovers. So this would be like somebody coming and saying, I just want a regular voiceover, it's for a commercial or whatever. And I send him a custom offer through my phone message gig because I want to increase the stats on that. Maybe my other gig is fine and I just want to increase the stats on my phone message. Does that hurt your account? No. I would say if they're close to the same, if they're similar, there's no harm that can be done. Now, if they're different enough, we'll say it that way. If they're different enough from each other, you could cause some confusion. So like if I sent that to the buyer that asked for the radio ad, he might say, I don't want a phone message. I want a radio ad. That could cause some confusion, but ultimately, it really doesn't matter. The one thing you want to avoid in this case is if you were to deliver something that might look odd in the portfolio of the other gig. So if like one was logo design and this one was Facebook header design, you wouldn't want to deliver a Facebook header to your logo design and have that display in your portfolio. That would be confusing to clients. So in general, I don't think this is a great practice. There's not a lot wrong with it. You're not going to get in trouble. It could be confusing for your buyers and could lead to confusion in your portfolio and gig page, which is what you want to avoid at all costs, but there's nothing wrong with it technically. That's how we'll answer that question. Thank you for asking that question. And then we've got our final question of the day. Drum roll, please. People were saying last week they liked the drum roll, so I thought I'd bring it back. From our trusty friend, Dinah Galau. Sometimes, she says, I do minor tweaks after delivery and I send them via the inbox without an official revision request. The buyer just asks via the inbox. Is this against the rules? I'll probably have some more questions in the future. So, I'm still learning. Dinah, we are glad you're still learning, and I'm glad you're going to have more questions in the future because I'm going to have more Q&A sessions like this in the future. The answer to your question is there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Here's the way that I personally do revisions. So if you've been a Fiverr seller any length of time, you know that Fiverr gives your buyers 3 days to respond to your delivery and request a revision. Well, sometimes buyers do nothing in that 3 days and the gig auto-completes. But then a couple days after that, so maybe 5 days after delivery, they come to you in the inbox. Oh, hey, didn't see the autocomplete. I was out of town, out of the office. I was sick, whatever it is. I still need an edit. Personally, I have a policy and I give my customers 2 weeks to request included edits. So sometimes after the gig is complete and you can't send messages back and forth on the gig page anymore, they'll come to me through the inbox. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can do all your revisions, send them via the inbox. What you what you want to try to do is you want to try to complete them within the 10-day window so that they can go back and leave you a rating on the order page for your work. The longer things drag out, if you get past 10 days after your delivery, then they can no longer leave you a review. So that's the one thing I would say is don't let it drag out in the inbox, because you'll pass that and then they won't be able to leave you a review. But there's certainly nothing wrong with it. It goes in the positive column, that you're able to continue to serve your customers. Even when the gig page closes, people need to know that you don't disappear. You don't vaporize when that gig page closes, and you're still there to help them, even if they need help down the road, even if they have to pay for those edits 3 weeks down the road. You're still there to help them. That's what Fiverr buyers want to know. Are you going to be around? Are you going to disappear the second you deliver this? Is this some kind of scam where I'm just going to put my money in and then you run away? That's what they want to know is not going to happen. So helping them in and through the inbox with revisions is perfectly fine, and I think you're doing a great service to your customers when you do that. All right, that's all of our questions for today, and we did it just a shade under 20 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Q&A here on Fiverr Talks. As always, my name is Joel, and if you have a question, leave it in the comments section for me for next week. Until next time, remember to like this video if you got some useful content out of it, and subscribe if you're not already. If you want to watch more videos, check out our playlists or past Q&As. There's plenty in the Q&As playlist. And until next time, keep doing, because the future favors the doers. There's lots of questions on here. Maybe next week there'll be some jokes. People can give me some jokes. I can tell the jokes. That'd be pretty good. All right. Let's keep that our little secret.